Okay, Miba Bidumia Alo, Mingalabalo, Panama, no concert in Made. General Bidu Banaya, Basenting on any Pilo Nija, Decoland, Sisemaro, Titaba Swinido Amaro, Padratamro Testure, Sito Sure, counting Swinidoma Pepare. Lola ye, Passage Japan dollar in a two, Bobo Kede, Sela Jima Gede, Yama Tamroha, Yamananga ye, Pawin Bata Kevi, Setana Shinui, La Alma, Dying da Bidu Rico, Pina yesterday said that Pilaware. Lashi another secondo, may online let him arrow. Set that ye, June Yesam Mumia, the mind young Gondika, a name zondo, Chayao, Jatiga be. Pika, a Bidurigo, oh, Pitka, the Piede, a Jampa, Lanakai, that the way, Pitwage Bade. Tony do, Lula ye Kalaga, Pidu Chida Tamronine, Yaneche Maro, Pidu Lulu the yellow ye, Yonsha, Mondimu Alma, Gondeka Gamesa, Tamno the ye and ye, a Kankana. ပြောက်သွားဆုံးရပျောက်ဆုံးသွားရပါတယ်ဖက်စစ်တော်လှန်ရေး88နှစ်ရှိခဲ့ပေမဲ့တစ်ချိန်ကအစင်လာကြီးမားခဲ့တဲ့မြန်မာတပ်မတော်ဟာတိုင်းပြည်အပေါ်တိုင်းသားပြည်သူတွေအပေါ်ဖိနှိပ်ရက်စက်တဲ့အကြမ်းဖက်လက်နက်ကင်တပ်တပ်ဖွဲ့ဘာကြောင့်ပြောင်းလဲသွားရတာလဲအလားတူစစ်ကောင်စီတပ်တွေကိုစွန့်ခွာပြီးပြည်သူ့ဘက်ရက်တီလာခဲ့ကြတဲ့ပြည်သူစစ်သားတွေအဖြစ်ခံယူထားတဲ့စစ်သားတယောက်ရဲ့ဂုဏ်သိက္ခာနဲ့စစ်တပ်ရဲ့အခမ်းကဏ္ဍကဘာတွေပါလဲပြည်သူစစ်သားတွေအနေနဲ့ပြည်သူအကျိုးကိုအလုပ်ကျွေးပြုလုပ်နေတဲ့အနာဂတ်တက်မတော်ဖက်ဒရယ်တက်မတော်ကိုဘယ်လိုမျိုးတည်ဆောက်ခြင်းတလဲ88နှစ်မြောက်ဖက်စစ်တော်လှန်ရေးနေ့အကျိုးအထူးစကားဝိုင်းအဖြစ်ဖက်ဒရယ်တက်မတော်တစ်စီတို့ခေါင်းစဉ်နဲ့ပြည်သူစစ်သားများရဲ့ခံယူချက်ယုံကြည်ချက်နာဂတ်တက်မတော်အပေါ်မျှော်မှန်းအမြင်များစသည့်အချက်လက်တွေကိုဆွေးနွေးသွားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ပါဝင်ဆွေးနွေးသွားမယ့်ပြည်သူစစ်သားများကတော့ CDM တက်ကြက်ကြီးမတ်ရင်လက်ထွန်း CDN တပ်သားကိုကျော်စောတူ CDN အခွက်တစ်ချက်ကြီးကိုနေဝင်းအောင် CDN စစ်တီကိုနောင်ရိုးနဲ့ဒီစကဝိုင်းကို Moderator အဖြစ်ကျွန်တော် CDN ဘိုးကြီးကောင်းသူဝင်းကဆောင်ရွက်တော့မှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ပြည်သူလူထုအနေနဲ့နေဘယ်ကဏ္ဍအသီးသီးမှာစိတ်ဝင်စားသူတွေအနေနဲ့မိမိတို့ရဲ့သဘောထားအမြင်များကိုပါဝင်ဆွေးနွေးနိုင်ကြောင်းကြိုတင်အတိပေးဖိတ်ခေါ်ပါတယ်ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပထမဆုံးအနေနဲ့ဒီဆွေးနွေးပွဲမှာပါဝင်မဲ့ဒါစပီကာများကိုကျွန်တော်မိတ်ဆက်စကားပြောဖို့ဖိတ်ကြားချင်ပါတယ်ပထမဆုံးအနေနဲ့ပေါ့နော်ဒါမက်ကျင်လဲထွန်းအနေနဲ့ဒါမိတ်ဆက်စကားပြောကြပေးပါဦးခင်ဗျာ
ဟုတ်ကဲ့အားလုံးပဲမင်္ဂလာညချမ်းပါရှင်ညီမကတော့တက်ကြကြီးလဲထွန်းပါအခုစကားဝိုင်းမှာပါဝင်ခွင့်ရရတဲ့လည်းကြည့်
Good evening to all of you and I'm very glad to be part of this this talk show. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite Naung, a fellow CDM soldier. Naung, please introduce yourself. Hello, my name is Naung. I am a CDM military personnel. I'm glad to be part of today's talk show, and I would like to extend my greetings to the listeners from here, from this platform. Next, I would like to invite Ku Jozotu. I am a CDM private Jozodu. So my 4862 is my ID number, and I'm also honored for this opportunity to participate in the talk show under the topic of towards Federal Army. And last but not the least, I would like to invite Aung to introduce himself. Good evening. My name is Aung. My post is Company Quartermaster Sergeant. Thank you. So I would like to give the first opportunity to Jimayeleton. Can you tell us about the reason why you joined the military? You were a female, the military officer. So what was the experience while you were serving in the military? Thank you. I have talked about this in the previous talk show as well. And why I joined the military is because my family has military background. That my family have I was a army brat. In the beginning, I didn't want to join the military. I didn't have a reason, but I just didn't want to join the military. And then I was trying to avoid joining the military. But when the military started calling for that sergeant clerks, they are offering jobs for that. I think this will be a good job, because as a joining the military as a sergeant clerk, that means I will become a civil servant, that I will be become a state servant, working for the providing service to the community. I want to be a public servant. And it was when I was finished my high school. So as I just finished high school, then I'm getting this position as a sergeant clerk will give me an opportunity to give back to my country. And I was very proud of my being able to join the military. But what I had there before, that all that has happened with the other ethnic minorities or the conflicts, what we have learned is that KIA and KNU are the rebels, that they were called insurgents. And this is something that that's a narrative I've always heard in the training, and that whenever I hear about it, is that and that I believe that, because that's the only thing what happened only after the coup. And I've seen that that military is shooting back at the public. They're killing our own people. They are abusing and exploiting the country and the control that they have. And then I started to see that the military is not good for the country. But it wasn't like that when I first joined. And then from 2016 to 2021, I didn't have much of a service yet. And then that it was during my service, that what happened in the real life in the military was very different. And we've seen that officers were exploiting that privates and that junior officials. I've seen people, soldiers being exploited for their own interest and their personal interests, and then for the families. And then I've also seen the military intervening in the politics, for example, like the voter list or the voting stations, and we were given a sign by that as well. I've also seen the military intervening in the politics by provoking the religious and that ethnic conflicts, and that the military wouldn't hesitate to kill its own people to be able to hold on to the power. And that I had started to realize that this institution is an institution that is very much against the people, that is doing not that bad food, adding badly towards the people. And I started to regret that I am part of the institution, and that's why I have defected. That's why I have left the military, because military has strong tradition. The military had a strong tradition in the past, has a great historical background. But since the Myanmar gained independence, Myanmar military has always been, building its hegemony, has always been dominating the political sphere. And that although Myanmar military had good history, good background, they had used it, they had leveraged it to be able to control the power. And then we have seen several coup d'etats the military had conducted, and that through this coup d'etat, through the regimes, that especially we have seen a much acts of violence, oppressions, in particularly in ethnic areas. Although there were not news coverage, we didn't get information about what happened in ethnic area, but ethnic brothers and sisters have suffered greatly under the military. And that's why there has been many years of revolutionary war and the fight for independence from the ethnic community for the past decades as well. Since the Myanmar military were first established back in the 1940s. Back then, General Aung, he was they had been also, he had also making sure to make sure inclusive. But when I was in the military, I've seen much oppression by the senior officials. Like there was physical abuse, that if you're private, well, you could be beaten, you could be slapped or punched, and then they will also abused as the rank and file verbally. They will be using very the negative abusive words as well. That because I am a woman, that they wouldn't do that. But I know that in my back, and they don't want to say it into my face, but they will call names, and they will use very abusive language. They have no respect against the person or against the dignity, the human dignity of the participants. And they are very fascist, and they are very dictatorial, and that their actions so far also have seen that during that if you will look at what they have done, they have banned down the villages, they have used the scorched policy, they will use rape as a weapon. All these are bad practices practices that they have exercised every time when they are conducting coup d'etats. Every time there is a military coup, they think that they are beyond the law, they are beyond anyone, no one can control them, no one could take action against them, and they are in check, and they have no control, and that they will do whatever they can to control the power, and they will abuse their positions, and they will also use their position and the money to recruit soldiers, to recruit young people like by force, and that also because of the difficulty to recruit people, they are getting people from, they're desperate to recruit people, and that so getting all these people with the problems into the military also make it as well. So I would say that that with the military has a strong tradition, a strong history, that's only a narrative, a propaganda that they have developed, and that I think the since for the 70 years of the revolution, they are simply they are simply just building their own glory and building their own the story of success achievement and their own narrative, and that they have never been no they are the way they have to push, they have to do try to get the territory with using the areas, right? And that but it is they are using they are good on the ground forces, but they are using the airstrikes, and that so we need to be able to fight back with the strength of the allied forces. And what I'm trying to say is that with the Myanmar at the helm of the military, and that the military's noble origins, or the objectives or the purpose of protecting their country to contribute to the nation, and there were such noble aspirations in the beginning, but later on this has been transformed towards more of the holding on and consolidating their power. If you look back in the Myanmar history, we have seen again and again military coup. I've read this as well, that even before that Myanmar was a big country, Myanmar was very productive, but after the coup, because of the exploitation, because of the corruption, Myanmar has lost its productivity, and that I'm read in the history that Myanmar was a major zone of production, and yet no, we have lost that as well, and that tomorrow that you said it's the fascist revolutionary day, but they will do the parade, and they will do the parade using a lot of money, use manpower, just to show off, just to make it show off the military might as well. But although they may be saying they bet all these military might or the weapons and that equipment, artillery, they're simply abusing the private the funds or public funds of the government or this kind of the country, and they're using it at the detriment of the people who are on the grassroots community on the ground, and that they are just using this as a way to make people survive. All the decisions they've made are for their own self-interest. Some of the rules and some of the decisions they've made are not good at all. That there are some good rules and regulations that is as code of conduct, but that with the horrible and the fragrant level of corruption, abuse of power, and exploitation, the rules and regulations are not simply complied with or respected to. That even that there are also a lot of people that they would you see there are also good people in the military, but then those who are now burning the villages, and that I've seen that they would loot the people, because even therefore if they see that longjis which are long skirts where by the women in Myanmar, some of the soldiers would take it that from the community so they can give it to their wives or their family. That military is no longer the noble guardian of the people. The military is no longer the benefactor of the country. Military is no longer the hero of the military. Military is actually, in fact, should serve the people, should serve the country, should serve the union, and should serve. But instead of a military serving the people, they are using the people to serve their interests as well. That if you look back in the past 10 years of a civilian power, the civilian government did not have full power because of the military monopolizing control and power. That's what I would like to share. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayin Leleton. Thank you for sharing that you come from the military family, that your family have served in the military for generations, and you have joined because you want to serve the country, you want to serve the nation. And yet you also have shared the experience that you have encountered during your service as well, that the way military usually say that military must be free from party politics, but in reality, military is interfering and participating in this something we have seen. And that another point that one you also made is the military should be serving their nation, and yet that the country is now being used, exploited to serve the military. Thank you for sharing. Now for the next speaker, I would like to invite Naung. Naung, could you tell us how did you join the military from a civilian life, and what is your experience during service? And after you have joined the military, why do you think this military has transitioned and has changed from a great military as a great institution with strong history and background experience, and yet they become a violent dictatorial armed group? What caused this change? Thank you for inviting me. So to respond to your first question of how did I join the military and what was my experience and expectations, well, when I was young, when I finished my high school, at that time, as youth, I feel like as a youth, I wanted to be a soldier. I want to be a good citizen. I wanted to serve the nation as a good soldier, and I want to serve the country. I want to serve by joining the military. And that is something, an aspiration that most of youth have, because we want to protect our nation. We want to protect our people who want to contribute to the security of the nation. And that I believe that by being a soldier, I want to help protect the country. And then I joined the military like many you did. And all of us believe that we would become a good soldier, we will have the dignity, a professionalism, and to be able to serve greatly for his country. But when I was, assigned to the units and the regiments and battalions, what I've realized is that the reality is very different from our expectation, what our perceived knowledge about the military, the army we perceive to be, and the real army that we are facing on the ground is different. The basic standards and values of the military are very different. In every sector, in every layer, in every class, the military has laws, its standards and the values, and that's something I have discovered as I served as well that time. So for the military is as a wrong place. We realize that it's a wrong place if you want to be a good soldier, if you want to be a good citizen. You know that this is not a good place for you to stay. But for many reasons, once you join the military, it is very difficult to leave, because we know that there is a systematic corruption, and there is also the oppression of the rank and file from the seniors, and that people remain in the military, and there is no sense of camaraderie, the spirit of camaraderie at all. And but they're abusing the juniors or the foot soldiers for their financial gain, financial interest. And with the political changes and transition, and even more evident, because when you're serving in the military, there is no dignity, there is no value, and you start to realize that it is aimless, it has no value at all, and that sometimes that we have also seen that you also see abuse, both the abuse as well as on the misappropriation by your officers. The longer you serve the military, the more you realize that how the standards and the values of the military has eroded, has degraded to no end. So I was also interested in the question that you asked, that what happened to the military? We have learned in the history there is a big narrative. The military has been there for further to the revolutionary movement for the independence of Myanmar. The military has fought back, hand in hand with the people against the Japanese fascist army. General Aung San was the founder of the military, so it was a military that has great tradition and great history. And then what happened to it? So, and I started to also to learn what is the reason, what has driven this military in the division, and I started to learn, and then I started to realize, the issues as well. That General Aung San, known as the father of father of the military, had noble objectives and aspirations in forming the Myanmar military, and then we can learn about that in his speeches as well. But like Jinyi has, our first speaker, has explained, that the military should be for the people. The military should serve the people, should serve the interest of the nation, and the people should not serve the interest of the military. And that's what General Aung San has claimed in his speech. And yet, how that has changed, what has reversed this rule? Instead of this military being the savior, or that's something that people can rely on, how has it become the oppressor? So if we look back in the history, for the around 1948, after Myanmar gained independence, for the next decades, there were a lot of rebellions, insurgencies, and movement. However, at that time, the military leaders were focused on the professionalism. At that time, the commander-in-chiefs, back then, commander-in-chiefs, they were historical, that they are very professional, that they, although Myanmar military was first established under the Japanese Fascist Army, they were very professional, they followed the dignity, but we had also had bad seats like General Naung, who wants to, remain Myanmar military, remain Fascist Army. They also want to hold on to the power. So like we have a current commander-in-chief like General Smith Don. He was set aside, and those are the small minorities like Naung, like who were Moderator, and the others were able to, ready together like-minded bad apples of the military, and that those who had them, those with a bad instinct or bad intentions were able to control the military. That was the beginning of the end, so to speak. And then as a military as an organized institution, it is important to follow the chain of command. So you have to follow the chain of command. But when Myanmar was established, you have the armies, you have the navy, and the air force. So there are different military regulations and rules for the army and the air force and the navy to follow. That every time you have a chief of the fund, the chief of staff for every branch of the army, for the army, and as for the navy and the. But after during the 1951, the military government, that what happened is that when the Naung became the head of this caretaker government, they enacted that law, and which integrate all the military forces, a branch of the military, army, navy, and air force into one, and then the chief of staff of the army became the commander-in-chief, and that means that they have force integrated navy and air force into it. So, and that's the second most important step in derailing the military from its good beginning as well. So that the commander-in-chief of the army is also the chief of staff of the army, and that they also changed the military administration and governance, and that allows them unlimited power. All the army, navy, and that air force are being integrated, and then all the forces enter the commander-in-chief, so that the adjutant general or the chief of staff or all the important positions will be controlled by a handful of people, and which will be handpicked and appointed by those military. And that is the beginning of the destruction of the military as a system, where the military started to become a pocket army. Back in the 1990s and afterwards, the military had changed into a new generation, and that when it has reshaped itself as a pocket army of a dictator, and that after that, military started to attack that opposition, especially political opposition, and that they use the military as a weapon, and that military is used as a pocket army to attack the political opposition. So the dictator started to use the military as well. So then in the second generation, military was abused as a pocket army to target the political opposition. In 1995, Myanmar, with the political changes that happened, the corruption in the 1995 was horrible. The situation of the corruption has worsened dramatically, and when I joined the military back in the late 90s, and that we can say that people do not have the camaraderie anymore, that the military is no longer has a sense of brotherhood or fraternity, and that we also see that what happened also is that military became abused by it, and so it becomes a military has also that degraded itself as well, and then it worsened with the third step or third phase. The worsen with the coup of 2021, and that so after the coup, if you look at the Myanmar and the way the military is spending, there are no standards, there are no values, there is nothing, there is not even the basic standard of protecting the military. That if you look at the Defense Service Academy, we are also seeing the horrible instances as well, that know that these are the officers training, the cadet trainings, and that they are not they are not saying that they are being trained. You become the leaders of the country sector. You are not there to protect the country, but you are there to govern the country, to make sure the control remains. So all these kind of teaching, all the kinds of ideology had led to the destruction and undermining the dignity and the professionalism of the military as well. With the 2021, the oppression, the violence, the killing, and the burning, the military has, in a way, had plummeted to the lowest point of morality as well, and that's because of their action, that because of the violence, and the people have started to have strong feelings of frustration and that discontent against the military. That it is the most hated institution in Myanmar, so the military is an armed forces that should protect the people. It's a state institution. It should not be under a single person, not the commander-in-chief, not any of them. If there is only one person is controlling the military, then it can be used and it can be abused. It can be turned back against the people. The constitution or the structure of the military is important. Military laws are very important, and it is important to ensure that if we look back on the history, when we think about the future, when we build the future federal army, it is important to look back on the past mistakes, and we take the lessons learned, and then to make sure that it is important to ensure these laws that will be in a form as well.
Thank you very much, Ko Nang Yo. And then for want to become a good soldier, so you are becoming a soldiers. But then because you have experienced this, and then thank you very much for explaining this. And because of the corruptions and greediness, like the military has become even at a lower standard, and the people has kind of like disgraced the army so far. And therefore, let me invite Kuchozo to at this time, and like the earlier people, how did you become a soldier, and then what is your experience with the military training, and how did the army become such a cruel army? Can you please explain about this? The reason I came into the army was and then I came into in 2018, and I was outside. With regards to the army, I didn't have a good feeling about it. And then in 2015, Aung San Suu Kyi won the election, and then there were reforms. And in the army, there has been possibly some reforms. This is what I have expected. And then it was the time I have completed my high school, and it was in 2012, 2013. And what happened was that I am going to protect my motherland, and with this intention, so I started contacting the army. And then at first, what I have experienced is that I wanted to go there on my intention, because what I have read from all the citizens, every citizen, they have like a conscription in other country. So I have learned about this. Because I have grown up in this country, I should be able to go to the army with this intention. I also think a lot about this before enrolling myself in the army. I listen to other people, I listen to the elderly people. It is not good at all. The army has corruption, such as like that. I accepted this, and then what happened was that what they were showing me is that in 2016-17, from Europe, like the Myanmar police force was given training by the European Union, and then I learned that like there were like some of the reform has started, and this is the reason why I came into the army. I enrolled in myself into the army. So what I have experienced in the recruitment center was I just went there. I kind of like register my enrollment, and then there has been a number of agents there at the recruitment center. Like if you get into the army, you will get this much and that much. I was told this. I didn't know about this, but and then it seems like I have been kind of like even trafficked into the army, something like that. And then after I have completed 6 months, so how much did you get this and that? I didn't know about this stipends or something like that. And then I learned that many people have come into the army, have been enrolled in the army. They have been trafficked, something like that. So it's kind of like they've been trafficked, and that they don't have any intention or purpose, and this is kind of like a bad thing. I didn't even know that people were being trafficked. So in 2018, like um, uh, their habits have started to deteriorate it, and like the instructors, the trainers, so things that you cannot do, you pay money and then you were not asked to do anymore. So the qualifications of a soldier is far, far away from what it has to be. So these are what has been happening since the beginning. I thought that I could be wrong from the beginning. And what happened was that I experienced was, so I was attending some kind of electronic training, and it was just like I started speaking what you were kind of like feeding us, like 2 eggs, something like that. And like you got like 720 a day, and then they look at me. If you can eat, then eat. If you cannot eat, don't eat, something like that. And then who should I inform about this? And then you can talk to anybody you like. And even them, they came into the army, and then they started to give pressure. This is after the 6 months of basic training, and now I am in the electronic training. So I could not talk to anyone about my feeling, and it was not okay. I talked to some of the higher ranking, and then I wrote it on the social media on Facebook. What I wrote was that today our army, if they go under the civilian government, or if not, then so I came from the so I think this like has to go under like some kind of private company, and then the senior was telling me that in the army, in the navy, there has been like kind of like privatized catering services, and then I was told about this, and then I wrote it in the social media. And not very long ago, like it's kind of like the navy kind of like has kind of like summoned me. So I had the name card, and then it's kind of like I was asked what they were. Many people arriving into the Navy. So they thought that they are kind of like very superior. They are good. They are the one who has sacrificed a lot for the country. And then they have the very wrong idea about what they are doing. So everyone is like doing their own job. But then for them, what they were thinking is that I talked to them that 25%, why are you in the parliament? We have to meet whether you have to remove yourself or not. And so at that time when I was saying that the whole like department has to line up and kind of like be in station, because of me, it was from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. that everyone has to stand up. The word that they were saying, some of the words, it is like kind of like looking down on the civilian people. If someone like him has say something like this, then like we cannot think of like how much of the brainwash words are being equipped at those schools. In 2015, there has been people who have won parliamentary candidate who have won. There are some of the educated people. There are some of the barbers, some of the vendors, street vendors. So what I do not even know what they want things to be. In their mindset, they don't see civilian as civilian. In their mind, what I have to say is that they have a huge hatred for the NLD. They have been blinded. If they like say NLD and they just like, they are like a bull who wants to kind of like attack the NLD people. So what I was saying is like wrong or right, they cannot accept it. You cannot just like inform like this. First, you have to come to us first and inform. I came to you, Major, and then like there was nothing, no developments. The thing is that like there are step by step. I did not kind of like post it on Facebook right away. It has been like sometimes, and then this like the belief, my belief that I have like lost. And what I have been hearing is that in the sea, there has been a lot of bully. Some people were killed and then disappear. I have heard about this. I have seen about this, and then we could not accept that. This kind of action, we cannot accept this. And I was no longer happy. And then when there were like coup, then the way they have been treating the civilian, they are saying the people are terrorists. This is what they are, their assumption. They don't see civilian as civilians, and then they see themselves as so they in their code of conduct, like they have to practice like this, but then they are seeing the civilian as their enemies. And so they are giving us like the real bullets to shoot, saying that these are the rubber bullets. And it has been a lot of inconveniences, and I felt that in my heart, I am no longer happy, and therefore, I feel that they are facet army, and that's why I left the army. This is just my summary of what has been, I have been there, and then why I left. Thank you very much. And then you have arrived in the army in order to protect your country. You thought that there would be reforms there, but then on the ground, what you have experienced is that as a former staff of the Navy. Thank you very much for saying that. Lastly, we have the Ko Ne Win, who is the last speaker. So your belief coming into the army and then your experience within the army and what is happening with the army, why it has become a cruel army. Can you please elaborate on that? Before I become a soldier, I like the soldiers. I wanted to be a soldier, a good man. Even like a man, a soldier is kind of like being, I liked it. And my father was also a soldier. I liked it when I was young. And then I wanted to have the soldier's uniform and become a good person. I wanted to protect my country. And then in 1999, I joined the Air Force as a trainer. I was very happy. At that time, there were some good people in the Air Force. In 2000, I was a private in the Air Force. At that time, Lieutenant General Colonel Joling Wu was saying that I recalled it, and the army was not like that when your father was here. Whenever there is like military or any like any belongings, somebody steal it, then everyone kind of like ban them or disassociate with them. But then in the army right now, people who do not steal will be seen as stupid. So like Lieutenant Colonel was saying that, but then I was not really understood what he meant. But then later on, I became to realize about it. In the 2007 Saffron Revolution, the soldiers were killing the monks very cruelly. I've seen it from Al Jazeera News Agency. And the whole department was furious about this. Aren't they the Buddhists? And then why have they been cruel and cunning as such? We were talking about this, and then our head of department were looking at us. And then later on, this satellite was taken away. And after that, he was saying that you do your work as soldiers. The monk do their work. So, and we are Buddhists, and then the Buddhist monks were being killed like that, but then shot like this. And then because our supervisor was saying that we have to be silent about this. And then in 2008, we have Nagi storm and the Ayeyarwady region, many people die. And international community have come to donate, but then in the evening, the general came and then took everything away, and the refugees, like those things never reach to the refugee. But the thing is that the general, the senior personnel are taking what they want as they want. And then the most disgusting thing was that many people were dying, but then the general were even trying to draft and endorse the Constitution 2008. I was not happy, and in 2009, I do not want to wear the uniform at all. And I was not kind of like, I just give money and then I wanted to do outside work. I do not want to say that I am a soldier as well. And in 2020, like there has been the election frauds, and then they performed the coup in 2021, imprisoning Aung San Suu Kyi in prison, and then I could not stand anymore. And that's why I became a CDM soldier. And then I am helping as much as I could in this Spring Revolution. So thank you very much. You wanted to be a soldier, and then since 1999, more than 20 years, almost like 25 years, you have been in the army from this situation, and then you could not stand anymore, and then thank you very much. So I will have the comments here. So it is true that we don't have the freedom father. So everyone would say that is either like there is like three kings. General Aung San was not there, and then so every like it's kind of like remembering something which is very far. So and then so you are listening from where, and then based on the speaker's comments, you can write it in the comments as well, and then in the Zoom as well. If you want to kind of like discuss, you can also discuss. Right now, let me invite Mayileleto again. So, and then for the CDM soldiers, like how do you want a CDM soldiers, and then how do you want a federal soldiers?
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကိုဖိတ်ခေါ်ပေးရတဲ့ကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ်ဒီစစ်တပ်ကတော့ဗောနော်
Thank you for inviting me. That the military in a nation has its own place, has its own role, and its job to do, its job to protect the country from the enemies. And that's the, if they do their job, if they stay in their place, then people will love them, people will admire them. They should not intervene in the politics, they should not interfere in the politics. If they are interfering, if they intervene, if they are, looking to gain their self-interest or make money out of it, then people will start to hate it. It's not just in Myanmar. I think it's in the world. If you look at it, that's the situation happening. If you like the United States, like under the Donald Trump, the president, when the president tried to do that, the U.S. seen a very clear example of the commander-in-chief have refused the military to be abused by their government. That is also it's very clear that if you do this to the army, then the navy will not accept it, or the Air Force will not accept it, because it is very clear for that as well, and that it's not like in Myanmar way of the army and the navy and that the Air Force should be under a single one. It is important to be a professional. It is important to do that as well. That it is important that military will need to have a standard. That it doesn't matter how the politician works. It is important for the military to do their job and do their work as well. And that because of that, though they may say many reasons that in military is not really protecting the people from the outside enemy, but they are fighting against their own people. The military actually is not doing their job. That the military is simply doing that, what they want to do for their own interests as well. As a soldier, you have a job to do, and you just want to be want to do the work with. We don't want to be, fighting with the people that we are supposed to protect as well. And that, although we may say that we need to protect the people, at the same time, I am that as the soldier, I have to, I have to say that I have to carry on my military duties, and if my duties, well, no, that will be, I don't want to fight against the people I'm supposed to protect. I cannot turn the weapons back against the people I'm supposed to protect. I cannot be, part of this gang of armed robbers and those who are looters and who are stealing from the people and abusing the people. And that it is important for the military to have a specific role, to do a distinction of the lay. What does somebody have to do? The role to protect the people? Yes, then we just do the job that we are supposed to. That a military doesn't want to give up its control of the politics, and they also want to be, control the revolutionary organization. That cannot be. The military needs to be responsible, to be accountable. The leaders need to play the leaders' role. At the same time, for the for their Moses as well. It is important that we play our role as well. We shouldn't pay people to drive their military. It is important that if the military if the military has a good role, the military knows what to do in a good way, and that they are responsible, accountable. There are mechanisms to ensure then the military does not have to pay people to ask them to join the military. It is important that people join the military not for the financial reason as well. That we have a lot of right now. We have a lot of the revolutionary fighters, and that they are fighting. They should be, and those revolutionary forces should also be should also be under the military defense, and they should also focus on protecting the people, protecting this. It is important the kind of army is will be established in Myanmar, that professional dignity, that has enforced this professional wisdom and dignity and protect the people. Thank you, Jin. So you also have made the point. You want military to do its job to protect the people, and the soldiers are part of the members of the armed forces has to be dutiful, accountable, and responsible, and that's what you want to see in the future federal army. Thank you for sharing. Now I would like to turn to Naung Yu and give you a question. As a CDM soldier, as a CDM soldier, how do you want them? What do you want the life of the soldier to be? And then what about for the future federal army? How do you want to see the future federal army? Could you discuss about this? Thank you. So this is I think this is also a point that I would like to discuss. That what do you want the military to be? What do you want our future federal army to be? And others have also discussed quite a lot that when the soldiers first join the military, they all want to contribute to the nation. They join the soldier because they want to be as well, and that we have also learned that as well, and that they join for the good causes, for the causes believe in, but to become a professional, we want the military to be professionals. The professional, they think about the professionals and they do their work properly. We want them to have a professional dignity, professionalism and dignity. And it's okay. You don't have a good salary. It doesn't matter if you live in a very horrible condition. But we want the soldiers to be the one who serve the country, for that we want the military to be a professional army that protects the people, that protects the nation. That's what we want it to be. It doesn't have to be a high salary, highly paid kind of a job. No, it doesn't have to be. So that so if you before we go into how do you want to see their federal army, that's what I will say. And that I want to want to share an account of Daw Suu Kyi when she was on the European visit. I think she was on the visit to the European countries, and she visited UK, and she go to the Sandhurst University, military university in the UK, and she gave a speech. And then she also talked with the commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the army as well. And then she asked the general, the general that why are the British people, why do the British people love the British army? The general responded by saying that in our country, so if we look at the organization that is respected by the people, and that the British military stands at the top, and got he said that our side is very simple, because our British military stay away from the politics. So we serve them, we serve the people, and that we don't have a self-interest in doing our service. So the soldiers stay away from the politics, and people accept that we stay away from the politics. We don't interfere in politics, and we serve the public, and the people accept that. And the fact that people accept as those that who will not do that, and that is something that's why that is why the military is the most admired public institution in the UK, and that the fact that they serve the people, and they stay away from the political interference, and that is incredible. that for us in the future federal army as well, we do want that. We want the future federal army to stay away from the politics. And another important point is that the military should be accountable, should be accountable to the civilian government that who is elected by the people. Only then the military should be another civilian management. Only then military will not be able to will be at the control of the civilian control, and that's what we want that military to be as well. Another important lesson is that so we have seen the cases of the military has changed the military rules and regulations, and that they have changed integrated into the Navy and the Air Force into under the control of the Army, and that it is important in the future, like in United States, like in the Britain, it is important to have a, it important to establish differently as well. There should be the chief of staff. There should be different chief of staff for different as well. It should be like, oh, that military, the army is that higher level than Navy or the Air Force. No, there should be different chief of staff controlling the army, different branches of the military, such as Army, Air Force, and the Navy, and the commander-in-chief, and also the commander-in-chief should be directly accountable to the civilian government, and this commander-in-chief should be appointed directly by the civilian government as well. And that when we look at also about the operation part, I study also about the United States Army as well, and that office staff and operational stuff is different. You have those who need to be stay in the office to the administrator, their chief of staff, and then they do not, those who run the administrative system do not give orders to the operational command. You have the security advisors, you have the military advisor, but they will not give command to that operating branches as well. It is important to separate administration and operation, so that principals should not be the ones to command the military. So it is important to separate specific branches, operations, as well as on administrative as well, and the command, the regional command or the ground command should be different as well. Then I think it's also this kind of separation is also important. That the same for the military, the same for all the branches of the military, Army, Navy, or the Air Force as well. And that it is important to have there should be the civilian government should appoint that policy makers as well as all the political advisors, and they are not there to to give comments to the operation as well. So the military operations should be under the military trained officers, but not from the administrative. So another part is that for the future, that you have now. Right now we have the PDF. You also have the revolutionary forces as well. In the future, we also need to look at the examples of other countries like Britain and United Kingdom, and then we also need to look at the different forces that you also will see in the United States. You also have different states also have different participation according to the state. You have a different military. You also have that there are also that different Navy Academy and others. It is important that we do that as well. There should also be proportional participation. You'll be the percentage of Burma, percentage of Rakhine, and all the ethnic. So it should be inclusive. It should be participatory. The composition of the military that should also reflect on the composition of the population in Myanmar. So this is also something we need to all to work on. That's something we want it to happen, and that I think to summarize, my point is that the reason for the military with a strong history, and that with strong history, with strong background, but the military has lost its history. The military has lost its standing and its tradition. And this is important to learn from that and build a future army based on the past mistakes made by that as well. It is important to look at what went wrong with the military, the best mistakes of the the military, to make sure that we can go there as well. That this way that the future military should be under the control of the civilian oversight. Secondly, the military should be separate. Some branches should be separated, such as Army, Navy, and Air Force, because it was on the 1950s, so the Naung had changed that as well. And that's the biggest lesson, that all the different branches of the army should be treated equally, should be treated professionally, and should be under different chief of staffs as well. And that military should stay away from the politics, should not interfere as well. And the military composition should reflect the proportional representation of the population of Myanmar. The military should have have standards, values, and that it should have should standards and values and protect the rights and the dignity of the participant. As a military should not be under the control of this handful of the military leadership, but military should be managed under dignity, professionalism, values, and that to ensure that that also have values and contribute to the progress of the nation. And we hope that the future federal army will be like that. Thank you, Konayo, for your answers. So your expectations as a soldier, that you talk about being a professional soldier, to be able to work with dignity, with professionalism, and that for that there should be different chief of staffs from different branches of the army, and also for that it is important for the commander-in-chief to stay away from the politics, and that not let the military be used by the politicians, and that to ensure the military should not be used and abused in any way, and that it is also important to have the military have a proportional representation of different other minorities or that of the population. Thank you. I want to ask you another question, Kunayo, if you don't mind. So we also read a comment as well that so my question to the participant as well: how do you also accept the federal democracy? How do you see the federal democracy? Can you also discuss that? Thank you. And that so personally speaking, that I can say that we do not only accept the federal democracy, we are also contributing for the establishment of the federal democracy in Myanmar, and that it is important that because our future is to build the federal democracy as well, that because right now in Myanmar people are very fractured, very divided. We want Myanmar to be like a garden of different flowers, different kind of. We want a country of solidarity, of unity. So that we have a different ethnic groups, we have differences, we have diversity. It is important to be able to provide equality and rights to equality, as well as on autonomy, and that equal rights and opportunities, equal treatment, and that's the federalism for us, for all of us, and that's what the ethnic brothers want. They want self-determination, they want to be able to have autonomy, and that's the federal democracy that can guarantee that as well. And that's what we want the military to be. That's what the nation to be as well. That we want the leader of the Myanmar, the government of Myanmar, should be the ones elected by the people, and then these are all the institutions in Myanmar should be accountable to the elected public government, and that's what we need in Myanmar. Federal democracy, building a federal democracy. The demand of this revolution also is very clear, and as a citizen, I believe in the federal democracy, and this is also I'm working forward towards as well. We hope I'm also playing my part, doing my role, and whatever I can to contribute to the movement.
ဒါဒီ Federal Democracy ကိုဘယ်လိုနားလည်လဲဆိုရယ်မိကွန်ပါဆိုရင်ဒါမတူကွဲပြားတဲ့ဒါအစုဖွဲ့တွေနဲ့ဒန်းတူညီမျှမှုပေါ့နော်ဒါစံတန်ဖိုးတွေတန်ဖိုးထားပြီးတော့ဒါပြည်သူရွေးကောက်ထားတဲ့အစိုးရမျိုးဒီလိုမျိုးဖြစ်ချင်တယ်ဆိုတဲ့သဘောသားလေးကို
If you want the elections to be so this time, and then let me invite Gojosotu again, as a CDM soldiers. How do you want a soldiers to be like it, and how do you want the future federal army would be like? What Konayo has said earlier, it is already kind of like perfect. What I would like to say, one thing is that as a federal army, if we have been reformed again, there should be division of power. Only one person is controlling the army and being achieved as such, and then the mistakes of that person could lead everyone to the wrong place. And therefore, right now, because of the wrong direction, we have been in the wrong place. And if we are reformed as a federal army, one person does not necessarily need to hold the power. So what I have said, what I would like to say is that like Kachin, there is like KIA. In Shan as well, there are some independent kind of like armed forces, and then in Karen like KNU, and then in Rakhine there is like AA. For those area, then right now they are armed group, but then later on they can be part of the federal army. So they should have their own autonomy in their own state, and they need to have their independence. It is not that we are dividing the country. They are going out of this federal state. They are in their own ethnic area, and for their own state and their development, they could do it. So what happened is that, for example, in Rakhine, if they are doing everything, they are late for themselves, and then they can leave. And what they could do is that, how could I say, is like it's not being affected in the central. If they have their own state, and then if they have their own leaders, then this is something like I'm saying in rough. Federalism is not dividing, but then there are people who are saying, who are on the other side, like federalism is dividing the country in different pieces. And then they have been frameworks that because of framework, if you kind of like go to Yangon to Mandalay, you will need a passport. This is not something we are talking about in the federalism. In their own state, like their own people will do the development for their state, their people, like this is what they're going to do. And then it does not need it to kind of like change everything. And the other thing is that it is not that one person is taking charge of the power. He himself is in the wrong direction, and then the whole army could be in the wrong direction. This is what I would like to say. That's it. Thank you very much. Federalism is to divide the power, and then it is not just a group, it is not just a person, it's holding on to the power. Thank you very much for telling us about that. And lastly, let me go to Siakonewe Ao, and then as a CDM soldier, the role of army, how you would like to have the life of a soldiers, and how you would like a future federal army to be like. Since 1826, we have like the first Myanmar English like war 1, 2, and 3, and then after that we have been a colony. And then in Bodhiza, Buang San kind of like have formed BIA in the early 1941, and then kind of like went to counter the fascist Japan. And then right now in Revolution Day was celebrated here in our country. In 1947, July 19, General Aung San and other martyrs were being assassinated. And we have independence on 4th of January 1948. Whenever these days have arrived, the whole country remember General Aung San. And then these general these days, people detest them, and then they hate these generals. And so in General Nguyen, like there has been like bad people, and then they are thirsty for power, and then they give a lot of problems to the the people, and then Myanmar is the worst and giving a lot of trouble to the people, and then using the army as his kind of like baton, and then killing people across the country, and then burning down the houses of the people, and then the army has become a very low standard group. It is the reason why the whole country started the Spring Revolution in 2021, and then after, so the federal army after this, we want an army for the people to love, and people want this army as well that they can rely on. In conclusion, what I would like to say is, in order to have a federal army, you should be part of the revolution as much as you could in your own pace. Thank you very much, Ko Newin. So the army leader, where you have been using the army as a baton, and then thank you very much. And then so I am writing about the comment. So the army leaders are not doing anything for their country and their for the civilian, and then they are just working for the generals and on their interest as well. This is what they are doing. They are just only working for their families, and it is the reason why we have reached to this day. We have suffered from this trials, and then there is someone who has raised the hand, and then thank you very much. Komentuya, you can ask questions or you can kind of like comment here. So I can hear you. Thank you very much, and you can also discuss. I raised my hand. I am on the bus, and I was afraid also that my connection would not be that good. I want to discuss something. What I would like to say is that to a new federal army. So we are not going there to the army, to a federal army. We are going to a new federal army. What I would like, I just have to say and highlight about it vividly. So there are a lot of connections in order to have a new federal army. What are we going to do in the on the ground, and then how are we going to change the policies in the state? So there have to be like changes. So these are the most important things. And right now, like people are talking about federal army. They never stop talking about it. But then in order to have the federal army, what do they need? And what I would like to say is that, so this is the work of the army. And then what I would like to say something is that in order to have a federal army, it is very important that the civilians are part of it as well. So they need to be in it, and then the people have to be in order to have a successful federal army. And on the ground, what we have been seeing is that the ERO leaders, so just form and then like have opened the ethnicities. They do not know, I do not know what they are asking for, like the assurances. But then on the ground, what is needed is that we are fighting the army right now. So starting from 2021, if I'm not wrong, there is like like there has been a group of like ethnic groups fighting the army, like KNU, KIA, SSPP, KNPP. It's like I think that there are like 12 armed groups, and then they have like come into like a coalition, but then like were not successful. I do not understand. I could not say, but then I think that they still exist, and in order to have an army, so as what I am seeing is that we need to have like a collective army. When fighting the army, we should be able to fight together. We do the fighting and then like have and approaches. So in order to have a federalism, there are a lot of trust building is needed. Only there is trust building, we can understand each other, and then the federal is far away again. So ERO groups, there has been division as well, KNU, KIA, there has been like differences as well. So there are things like that. And what I would like to say is that there should be a collective army. Trust building has to be done. These are the most important things. Trust building, understanding, and a mutual understanding. And only after that, the federalism can be built up. Yeah, so federal will still be far away. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gomintuya. What is needed in the federalism and how important it is for the civilian to be part of it. And then in order to be a federal army, trust buildings are needed, mutual understandings are needed. Thank you very much. I have another person who raised their hand. Right now, we have someone, someone who raised their hand. Please discuss. Mingalaba. I am a civilian, and right now you are on the sides of the civilian. I am very thankful to you and for being part of it. What I would like to say now is that so army leaders, army is like not everyone, army leaders. So they are only working on their own interests. They never look at their subordinates. They have neglected the lower ranking people. Right now, even like only the soldiers at the lower ranking are sacrificing their lives. And sometimes, so even like the orders when releasing, they don't even kind of like collect the corpse of the sacrificing soldiers, and they could not do. And so there are people who have like they are working experiences, then they could not provide the family members of those soldiers. They are stealing the people's money, but then they are corrupting, and they are not even like looking at the family members of the sacrificing soldiers. So, and the civilian are being made into poverty, and right now they have performed the illegal coup. It's kind of like they have performed this coup. I think we might have to do a lot, and then we all need to work hard. And those who are in the army, and even the civilians, public servant, they are always going to the public servants area. They went into the judiciary system, and then whatever places are in Myanmar, the army is interfering. So our country is being destroyed and then in destruction. We will have to do a lot on that. And I just want to discuss about this. Thank you very much. Thank you for your discussion. And then the army leaders are not looking after the lower ranking people, and then not only looking after the civilian, the whatever in the field, the army is interfering in all the sectors. We have seen that, and let me read it, and then so right.
So let me read this comment that it is important for us to be this. The last time will be won over by the propaganda, and also that it is also important for that for all of us to be understand that because this is not just about getting rid of me online, the commander-in-chief, and that and also that it is so important that we want to have like a political maturity as well as on the professionalism. It is important to increase that capacity as well. Of course, these are also needed, and that it is not just about the eradication of the military junta. It is not just about the collapsing the military, but it is also important with the federalism. It is important with the federal army. So that it is also important that to make sure that we need to increase the political maturity to avoid this kind of a military coup from happening ever again as well. And also, please feel free to raise your hand, and we can invite you on the Zoom to share us. And you can also write your comments and your perspective and your opinions in the chat or in the comment section on the live stream pages, so that we can also take them into account. So if you don't have any other speakers, then we'd like to wrap up this our today's talk show. That today we discussed the end of the topic of towards the federal army. I would like to thank our speakers and now also those who are following us, watching us from both inside and outside the country. Thank you very much for joining us. I would like to wish you all that still stay healthy and safe. Thank you very much for joining.